Hi guys, Ian from footballboots.co.uk here, and today with the talk of Messi potentially getting a jail term for his tax fraud trial, we wanted to talk about the top 10 players who have ended up in prison. Now, Messi is appealing, and it's probably likely that he would avoid prison time anyway because of the way that Spanish law allows terms under 2 years to be served as probation. We did think we'd look at the top 10 players who ended up in prison. Now, there's a bunch more that didn't make our list. This is our top 10, and we are going to throw in a few more who nearly ended up in jail too. Right, let's start at number 10, Rene Higuita. The man with the scorpion kick, this Colombian goalkeeper from the 90s, somehow ended up in the middle of some shady business. In 1993, he went to prison for his part in a kidnapping involving the famous Colombian drug baron Pablo Escobar. His job was just to collect some ransom money, but he still ended up doing the time for his crime. He did go on, I think it was 1995, that he did the famous scorpion kick, but it did mean that he missed the 94 World Cup. And number 9, Duncan Ferguson. Now, one of football's hard men, the Everton and Rangers player, known as Big Duncan Ferguson. He won the FA Cup in 1995 with the Merseysiders. He often found himself in hot water, often resulting in fines. But in 1994, whilst he was at Glasgow Rangers, Ferguson headbutted Wraith Rovers defender John McStay during a game, and he was sentenced to 3 months in prison. Talking about football hardmen, Vinnie Jones. Now, Vinnie Jones never did any real time, but he did make an appearance in the classic movie Mean Machine, which, if you haven't seen it yet, make sure you check it out. It's got some football in it, and Jason Statham's role as the goalkeeper monk is excellent. Number 8, Garry Croft. Now, you might not have heard of Garry Croft, but he was the first footballer to officially wear an electronic tracking device. So he had an ankle tag on for tracking. He went to jail for 4 weeks for motoring offences, and he first wore the ankle bracelet in a reserve game against Gillingham, and then went into first team action for the Tractor Boys, Ipswich Town, against Swindon Town. Number 7, a more recent player that you may know, Jermaine Pennant. Now, he would go on to play for Liverpool, but he wore his ankle bracelet when he was playing for Birmingham City. He went to prison for drink driving, I believe, and he went on to play for Real Zaragoza and Stoke City. When he was at Zaragoza, he managed to get 5 months worth of parking tickets on his Porsche at Zaragoza train station. He did claim that he forgot he owned the car. Number 6, a player that you've probably not heard of, but Peter Storey. He was one of the best players to play for Arsenal. He won the double with them back in 1970. Unfortunately, his career after football didn't work out so well. Players didn't earn as much money back in the day. And by 1980, he'd gone to prison, sentenced for 3 years for financing a plot to forge gold coins. He was also sent to prison for smuggling pornography, and that made him a prison double. Number 5, a player you probably have heard of, especially if you're on Twitter, Joey Barden. Now, Joey Barden has twice been convicted for violent charges. His first incident involved assault, and he had served 77 days in prison. He also got a suspended sentence after admitting assault, causing actual bodily harm against a former Manchester City teammate. Lee Hughes went to prison. He was at West Bromwich Albion, and he was a big goal scorer for them. He's had 2 spells at the club. He's scored about 80 goals, 90 goals. And he helped them get promotion to the Premier League. He played with them in the Premier League, but at one point he got convicted of causing death by dangerous driving and leaving the scene of an accident, so he was sentenced to 6 years in prison. Another massive star to narrowly avoid jail time was the man with the hand of God. The former Napoli and Argentinian great Diego Maradona got himself into trouble with the law on a number of occasions. You may have heard of some of the incidents already, but he got in trouble for taking drugs, incidents with the police. But in 1998, he was given a suspended 2-year jail sentence for shooting a journalist. One of the reasons he didn't end up going to prison was because it was with his own air rifle. Number 3, considered one of the greatest Arsenal players of all time by the club's own fans, Tony Adams. He uniquely captained a title-winning team in 3 different decades. But in May of 1990, Adams crashed his car into a wall near his house and was found to be 27 times over the legal drink drive limit at the time. He spent 4 months in prison that December, and later that decade, Adams publicly admitted that he had a problem with alcoholism, and he began treatment to begin his recovery. Talking of English defensive legends, World Cup winning captain Bobby Moore was caught up in a scandal over a missing bracelet during the 1970 World Cup. He was held for 4 days by Colombian authorities before being released in time for a crucial game against Brazil in Mexico, thanks to the intervention of the British Prime Minister at the time. Number 2, Ian Wright. the famous TV pundit and father of Sean and Bradley Wright Phillips, the Arsenal and Crystal Palace star forward who scored 185 goals for the Gunners in 279 appearances. Early in his career, he owned 2 cars but failed to pay fines for driving without tax or insurance, and he spent 14 days in Chelmsford prison. Number 1. George Best. One of the greatest players to ever play for Manchester United, Best was also known for his crazy lifestyle off the pitch. He once said, "They say I slept with 7 Miss Worlds. I didn't. It was only 4. I didn't turn up for the other 3. Voted Footballer of the Century in 1999, he was a known alcoholic. In 1984, he was convicted of drunk driving, assaulting a police officer and failing to answer bail, and then spent some time in jail. Another Best quote was, "I spent a lot of money on booze, birds and fast cars. The rest I just squandered."